Hi. So today I'm going to be making a focaccia bread, a sourdough focaccia bread. I fed my starter this morning. It was doing pretty good. I've been baking bread like crazy. I've been doing English muffins. I've been doing like the traditional like sourdough loaf. I've been doing some sandwich bread, and I just started doing focaccia bread. I don't know why I haven't done this sooner. It's so easy and it was so delicious. I made one last week and I shared some with my neighbors and my parents and stuff, and everybody loved it. So I'm making more focaccia bread. So I fed my starter this morning and it's looking pretty good. It's rising. It's got some time left to go. I'll probably end up doing the actual dough and stuff this evening, but basically I have my little recipe. This recipe is the one that I got at the class that I attended last April that like taught me how to do all of this. So I'm going to end up taking 60 grams of starter, 375 grams of cool filtered water. I just take like bottled water, 20 grams of honey, 500 grams of all-purpose flour, 10 grams of salt, and olive oil. When I did my last bread, I sprinkled some like rosemary and some fresh garlic on it before I baked it, and it came out so good. So once I go ahead and start mixing everything up, I'll bring you back and kind of like show you what I'm doing. Okay, so for this focaccia bread, I added in 60 grams of my sourdough starter and 375 grams of water. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this up. I used pretty much all of my starter here, so I'm gonna have to feed that and kind of beef it up again. My plan was to make 2 loaves of this focaccia bread, but I only had enough starter to make 1, so that is just fine. So we're gonna give this a good mix. You kind of want the starter to dissolve into the water a little bit. And then to this, we're gonna add 20 grams of honey.
No!
Honey! All right, so, okay. So now we're gonna zero out our scale and add in 20 grams of honey. Do you want to tell me when can you see from there? Tell me when it gets to 20, okay? You can just look right there. Gianna's gonna help me. Nope, we're a little bit over. We're at 21, but that's okay. So we're going to stir this in, and we're going to add in 500 grams of all-purpose flour and 10 grams of salt. So. I'm going to just take a spoon here, and we're going to zero this out. So 500 grams of flour. Now we're going to add 10 grams of salt to this, because if you don't add salt, I hear that it comes out tasting really weird. So, all right, so we got 10 grams of salt in here. So now we're just basically going to give this a mix, and we're going to cover it and let it sit for about 12 to 18 hours. So the last time I made this, I didn't do any stretch and folds because the recipe doesn't say to do it, but I think this time I might do a couple rounds of it and see how it turns out. But this is basically, I mean, aside from the honey, it's similar to the recipe that we would use to make a regular loaf of dough, a regular loaf of bread. All right. So it's coming together and it's looking like that. It's like a shaggy dough. Similar, just like when we make sourdough loaves. Okay. And this tends to be a bit sticky, at least all the times that well, not all the times, but last time I did it, it was quite sticky. I don't know if that's because of the temperature, because now it's starting to get a little nicer out, or if that's just the way the dough is, but all the same, the bread came out really good when we made it last time. Okay. All right. Now, got all this flour incorporated. I'm just gonna let it hang out. All right. I like to form it into a little bit of a ball. So here we go. That's our dough, and we're just gonna cover it and let it sit. Hi, we are back. It is the next morning and my dough has been rising. I did one round of stretch and folds on this and then kind of forgot about it for like an hour and a half. So we only did one round of stretch and folds, but that's okay. So our dough has risen. It is super bubbly. Let's see if I can show you. Super bubbly. Apologize about the noise in the background. I've got my Roomba going. But anyways, so this is what your dough is supposed to look like. Like I said, it is a bit sticky. It's got a huge bubble that's just like expanding. I want to show you. This one right here. Oh, they just popped it. Anyways, so I am going to go ahead. I have a baking sheet lined with parchment paper here, and I'm basically just going to put some oil on here and turn out the dough and kind of like, I don't know, just kind of let it sit. I'll cover it and then let it rest for about 2 hours. So I have a pan that has a bit of like an edge to it, just because I don't trust a flat pan and olive oil. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put down a good amount of olive oil here. I don't think you want too much, but at the same time, it's like you need enough. So I did about that much. I kind of like spread it around here. You can always add more, I guess, if you need to. Last time I did this, I had so much olive oil on here. I had to go and like sop it up with a little bit of a napkin before I put it into bake because it was like a pool of olive oil. Okay, just a little bit extra. Now, this is the fun part. Now we get to turn the dough out onto this sheet here. Hopefully I don't make too much of a mess, but come on. There it is. Oh, look at that. I want to see. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and, the bowl's got some dough in it, so I'm just going to go ahead and scrape this out here. You want to get all that good stuff. There we go. It's kind of, whoops. Scrape the dough out. And actually, this dough looks like, I don't know, for some reason, I mean, I use the same amount of ingredients, but for some reason this just looks like a lot more than my other one that I had made. Okay, like I said, it's a little sticky, but I'm going to go in and you're basically just going to gather all this dough and you want to flip it so that the other side gets coated with olive oil as well. Probably should have put a little bit more olive oil on the sides here because it's sticking to where the olive oil was not on the parchment paper. Okay, we'll take this and we are just going to try and flip it over. There we go, flip it over. It's a little stuck. It's a little messy, but you know what? When you're working with dough, I feel like, I mean, it's kind of like therapy, right? I'm just gonna kind of do that there. And you're just gonna like kind of stretch it out a little bit. Put some olive oil over here. That's why you need to make sure that you have enough olive oil so that your dough doesn't just stick to the pan. So now this is all coated with olive oil, both sides. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of like, like spread it out a little bit. You don't have to get too crazy with it because we're going to cover this and let it sit for about 2 hours before we come back and kind of like really stretch it out and form it and then put all the little dimples into it. So I am just going to stretch it out a little bit here. You don't have to get too crazy with it. I mean, it's focaccia. It's not perfect, right? It's not gonna like stick on itself, but so this is what I've got. I made sure to grab a paper towel because I knew it was gonna get messy. And we're just, like I said, just gonna cover it. I have another sheet pan that I'm gonna use to cover it with. But yeah, like I said, there's so much oil in this pan right now, and I don't know if I'm going to just leave it like that or if I am going to sop it up before I go and bake, but I'll show you what it's looking like. So this is what it looks like right now. I'm gonna go ahead, cover it with this sheet pan for 2 hours, and then come back and it will be time to bake. So it's been about 2 hours, and I took the other pan off of my dough here. We are going to kind of just stretch out the dough, put our toppings on. I have my oven preheating to 425 degrees. Once it heats up, we'll pop this in. But anyways, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna stretch this dough. As you can see, it kind of rose a little bit more. I hope you can kind of see it, but we're basically just gonna take this and let's kind of get some oil over here. I feel like there's like quite a bit of oil in this pan, but this time I think I'm just gonna bake the dough in all this oil because I feel like that's the vibe we're gonna go for. I'm just kind of spreading that oil out a little bit right now, all along the bottom of this pan. Underneath the dough, we're gonna like stretch this guy out. We want it to be kind of like in that rectangular shape. We're just kind of stretching it to get it fitted to the size of the pan. It's got so many bubbles. It's so cool. Like it looks like it's going to be really good. And you don't want to stretch it out too thin either. Like I just made a hole in this, so we're just going to kind of plop that guy back together. Get it into a nice, trying to make it a little even too. All right. So I've got my dough stretched out. Like I said, there is oil like kind of coming up on the side, and I'm going to try and redirect this so that it doesn't like spill over when I go to bake. All right, so I've got it stretched out pretty good, and I'm going to go ahead and put my little dimples in it. And I also sliced up some garlic and some rosemary to sprinkle on top. So I just kind of took my garlic and just sliced it up real thin, and I'm just gonna like stick it in there just all over. And I only took 1 clove of garlic because I feel like last time when I made this, it didn't like stick to it, but I mean, we still got the flavor. It was really good. I think I'm gonna make some sandwiches with this tonight for dinner. Nothing better than fresh bread, right? All right, so we've got some garlic. We've got some fresh rosemary. I think some people just put the whole sprig on there, but I kind of took all the little pieces off because I like to sprinkle it on there. I only took like 1 sprig, but fresh rosemary is pretty potent, so I feel like this should be fine. All right. I mean, it smells so good. All right. Just kind of get this all spread out over here. Go. Spread it out, spread it out. I want to make sure that like every piece of this bread is going to have rosemary on it. You really get that flavor. All right, I'm just going to kind of poke everything down in again. Just kind of really get that garlic in there. And then next, let me go wash my hands because I want to hit this with a little bit of salt and pepper. I just feel like it gives it such a good taste. I don't have flaky salt, so I'm just gonna take my grinder and just grind the salt all over this. All right, so we're gonna take a little bit of salt. You don't want too much, but I feel like that's good. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of pepper on it. And I actually, so since my starter was only enough to make one loaf, I fed my starter last night and I put it in the fridge. And I took it out this morning because I promised my neighbor that I would make them a loaf of focaccia bread. So I'm like, oh, I'll just make them one today. Look at this thing. That's been sitting in the fridge. It rose so much. So I don't have to feed it again. I'm just going to kind of let it do its thing. And then I'm going to make another loaf for them tonight. It'll probably be ready tomorrow, but they said that they can wait. So perfect. Anyways, I am going to get this in the oven and it's got to bake for about, I think it's, what does my thing say? 25 to 30 minutes. When I pull it out, last time I just spritzed it with a little bit of olive oil on top afterwards, and it was so good. So I'll show you what it looks like when we get this thing out of the oven. Oh, before I forget, something that I learned about when you preheat your oven, I didn't realize that when you heat your oven up and it, tells you that it's ready, apparently that only means that like that certain section of your oven is preheated and hit that temperature. So whenever I go to preheat my oven, I preheat it and then leave it for like about 5-10 more minutes so that like the entire inside of the oven reaches temp. Just a little tip that I learned. All right, it's time to pull this out of the oven. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. Look at that steam. Oh my gosh. I can't even tell you how amazing my house smells right now. It is unbelievable. So let me get a knife and do this little scrape test. So listen. It looks so good. It smells so good. And honestly, all the oil kind of looks like it kind of absorbed. Yeah. So we're just going to let this cool and I'm going to cut into it later. But try it out. You can play around with the toppings. I think rosemary and garlic is pretty popular, but you can put whatever toppings you want on this. Yeah, and enjoy.